Okay, welcome. It is Sunday, December 3rd, 2023. If you've been here before, you kind of know what we're doing here. I collect questions that come in throughout the week and answer them here. You can submit your questions by typing a comment wherever you're watching this. Hopefully, it's on YouTube. Or Facebook or Twitter or Twitch or LinkedIn, but probably YouTube. Definitely jump over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel so you get more of this. We got some good stuff coming up, some real secret new sponsors here, and some really cool things over the next couple of weeks. So those of you who are watching me on YouTube right now, I am looking deep in your soul. But if I look up here, I am looking at a TikTok live. So we're actually at the same time we do the live on YouTube, we do a TikTok live. I'm going to focus on YouTube, answer these questions, and then afterwards we stay online for about an hour answering live questions that come in. Of course, you can also type your questions in below. I will catch them and answer them, if not on this episode, on next week's episode. And people on TikTok Live, I will love to answer your questions. Type them in as we go here, but I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes or so on the YouTube Live. So I will get to your questions next. But if you want to jump over to YouTube, watch us there. Okay, I think we are properly introduced. So welcome and thank you for joining us. We are DPF Guys. I'm James, and we're based in Atlanta, Georgia. We focus 100% on diesel after-treatment services for anything with a diesel engine and an emissions system. Most of our customers are truck drivers and fleets, but we also service after-treatment for off-road equipment, diesel passenger vehicles, and stationary stuff with DPF systems like generators, pumps, rock crushers, and more. So I like to say, if it has a DPF, we can clean it. Disclaimer: you should always talk to your mechanic about any concerns you have with your engine or truck, and any pricing discussed here may or may not apply to you and should only be used as a guideline and is not any form of an official quote for any services by DPF Guys or anybody else on the planet, in the solar system, or the Milky Way galaxy. Question number one. Let's take a peek at this here. And it is, am I supposed to ever see smoke coming out of my exhaust pipe, and what do the different colors of smoke mean? This is going to be kind of a lengthy answer here. First, and this is the most important thing, other than maybe seeing some condensing water vapor come out of the exhaust pipe when starting on a cold day, you should never see smoke coming out of your exhaust. So if you have a truck 2007 or newer, your truck has a DPF, which is the diesel particulate filter, and this filter catches all of the soot, which is smoke, from the engine before it gets into the atmosphere. If you are seeing black smoke, and there's there's black smoke, gray, white smoke, blue smoke, but if you're seeing black smoke, this not only means that your DPF is cracked, or we call it breached, and is letting soot through. The cause of the smoke is likely caused the filter to be breached, or the cause of the smoke is likely the cause what breached the filter, and is something in the engine. So if you see black smoke coming out of your truck, if your truck has a DPF, or if you see a buildup of smoke on your tailpipe, we'll touch on that in a second, it's definitely an indication of something going on upstream. Now, again, the symptom might be a cracked DPF, and that is letting soot through. But the question is, what cracked that DPF? So it could be something as simple as you have a dirty or clogged engine air intake filter. You'd be amazed at the impact that these air filters can have on the performance of your engine and everything downstream from it, which of course would be your after treatment, your DPF. So if you have dirty engine air intake filters that are limiting airflow and causing incomplete combustion, which will not only produce smoke, the uncombusted diesel fuel will produce excessive heat in the DPF system, which can not only crack your DPF, can also destroy your SCR. The SCR is the secondary catalytic reducer, which is what works with the DEF to get the NOx out of the air. And the beginning part of your after treatment system, which is your DOC and DPF, are a little more tolerant of high temperatures. The SCR, on the other hand, if that thing ever gets above about 1200 degrees Fahrenheit, it's done. And that's definitely an expensive thing to deal with. It's even more expensive if you have a one box type system like you would have on a Freightliner or the newer Volvos. So You may also have an issue, the black smoke again, may also have an issue with poor turbo performance or have something wrong with your turbo actuator calibration, which can cause poor combustion and smoke. The issue could also be related to over injecting fuel at the injector due to worn injectors or incorrect fuel air mixture programming, often called the fuel map. And the EGR cooler, EGR valve issues can also cause black smoke. Potentially some other weird stuff like Jake brake stuck open, stuck closed, that sort of thing. Whatever the case, you should never ever see black smoke. And if you do, it is almost 100% likely that the root cause is an issue in the engine. Also, if you don't see the black smoke coming out, in a cloud, but you notice black residue on the inside of your tailpipe, that just basically means it's making smoke, and either you just missed it or it's doing it in smaller quantities and it's not really visible. And of course, if it's a stack, you have to be looking at your stack. If it's underneath, you have to be looking underneath. But if you see black residue inside your tailpipe, you definitely have an issue with a cracked DPF caused by something upstream in the engine. And your tailpipe should just never be black, and you should never see smoke. You will ultimately need to get your DPF system cleaned if you are seeing smoke, and you may even need to replace the DPF if it's damaged. But you want to make sure that you fix the root cause of the problem upstream in the engine immediately. Otherwise, you'll just have the same problem again. And I've seen that where people say, just clean my DPF. And I'm like, man, you've got an injector issue. And they'll say, I've got to load, I've got to get wherever it needs to go. And I'll tell them, I said, you're probably not going to make it more than 700 miles. And I tell you what, people normally make it 500, 600 or so, and it plugs back up again. So if you're seeing smoke come out of your stack, definitely get that taken care of, because the truck is going to put you on the side of the road when you least expect it, and we want to avoid that. And need to remind you that if you like my DPF Guys hat and you simply type the word hat into one of the comments here, we are going to pick a winner. And one person this week, one lucky watcher of the episode, will get a hat. Or you can text the word hat, H-A-T, if you don't know how to spell it, to 404-999-1361. And we will put all of these names in a hat and pull one out, and some lucky winner will get a DPF Guys hat. All right. More about smoke. Question number 2, what about white smoke coming from my exhaust? Now, again, you really should never see any smoke other than some water vapor on a cold day. But if you see white smoke, again, this is white smoke, we just talked about black smoke, it could be caused by air bubbles in the fuel system, which can lead to incomplete combustion while producing white or even black smoke. Also, raw unburnt diesel can cause white or black smoke. But if this is happening, you likely have severely defective injectors, poor cylinder compression, worn piston rings, or issues with injector timing. Coolant can also cause white smoke because it's actually steam, and coolant is primarily water. And coolant is the problem, probably the number one cause of white smoke, because it's actually causing steam. Your coolant could be getting into the exhaust stream via a crack in the head or head gasket, or from a leaking EGR cooler. So you see white smoke, check your coolant, make sure your coolant is not low, and check and get the root cause fixed immediately, because if you're bleeding coolant into the engine, if you got a cracked, head or head gasket, you want to get that taken care of. If you got a leaky EGR cooler, you want to get that taken care of. So anytime you see smoke of any color, it means you need to go see a mechanic and see what's going on, because the truck will not fix itself, unfortunately. Sometimes on some trucks, starting cold on a cool or cold day may also produce some white smoke until everything gets to operating temperature. And that could also be just condensation. But if your truck has just begun producing the white smoke, your truck is trying to tell you it needs help. Now, if this is something that your truck has been doing from day one, and I haven't seen one do that, but again, maybe yours does, you might be okay. But like I said, you should never see smoke coming out of that thing. Whatever the case, make an appointment with your mechanic or give us a call, because any color of smoke coming out of your exhaust is a sign of trouble, and it's better to fix it now than to wait until things get worse. And like I said, if you do like this hat, text the word hat to 404-999-1361, or just comment hat wherever you're watching this, and we will pick one lucky winner per week, and we will ship you a hat, maybe some of the goodies too while you're at it. Um, Last but not least, more smoke questions. What about blue smoke in my exhaust? Now, blue smoke is almost always related to burning oil. Um, and so if you're starting to see blue smoke, and your truck is high mileage, you're just probably due for some more serious engine work, even an in-frame or something like that. But worn piston rings can allow oil into the combustion chamber, producing blue smoke. Faulty valve seals and guides can cause oil combustion, and those oil can sneak into the cylinder. Also, if somebody's not careful and they put too much oil in your truck, can definitely cause oil to be forced into the combustion chamber as well. And if you're getting fuel in your oil, which you shouldn't, but sometimes that happens, it can thin the oil out and cause it to sneak into places where where it shouldn't be, and that will burn blue, produce blue smoke. So, one of the easiest things to do is check your oil, see if it's low, because if it's low, it's possible you're consuming oil by burning it. That's what's coming out the tailpipe as blue smoke. Um, or if it's high, it could very well mean that you have too much oil in the crankcase, and that's also producing excessive pressures and causing the oil to sneak into places where it shouldn't be, causing it to combust with the fuel. Um, and or it could be too high because you might have a leak someplace that's getting coolant into the oil. Either way, that check your oil. That'll tell you that if your oil looks like a milkshake, call your mechanic right away. That means you've got coolant in the oil. But we also do oil sampling and analysis for less than $100 at DPF Guys. And it only takes about 10-15 minutes to grab a sample. So give us a call or text at 404-999-1361 to schedule a visit to our shop in Atlanta to get your oil analysis done. That's also an option. Now, I get asked this one a lot. And I feel like I've answered it 100 times, but obviously I will answer it 110 times, 100,000 times if need be. How much does it cost to get my DPF cleaned? Well, first off, you are going to want to get your DOC cleaned as well as your DPF, because remember, the exhaust leaves the engine, goes through the turbo, and works its way down to the after treatment system. And the first thing it goes through after all of that is the DOC. That's the diesel oxidation catalyst. And I got a question coming in on TikTok. Tim, hold that question. That's a good question about someone is asking about cleaning your DPF with a power washer. The answer is don't, but we'll on TikTok, I'll answer that in more detail. So the DOC is just a pass through catalyst. That's what produces the heat that burns the soot into ash during a regen. So it's really not supposed to catch any soot, but soot does build up in the DOC. And what we find, because we weigh everything before and after, and also flow tested, the flow rates on the DOCs do improve substantially once they're cleaned. But also, normally at least 10% of the soot we get out of a DPF system when we clean a DPF and a DOC, 10% is in the DOC. So you can just clean the DPF if you want, but a dirty DOC is often the cause for after treatment issues after it gets a layer of soot inside it. It gets a layer of soot inside the DOC, or on the inlet side, it can get a thin layer of soot, which is called a face plug, called a face plug. And it's amazing because that layer of soot doesn't have to be very thick; it can be a millimeter, and it will plug that thing up just like a potato in the exhaust pipe. So we recommend cleaning both, or you just left 10% of the junk in your system. And what will happen is once the DPF is cleaned and flowing better, that 10% of soot and ash, or I'm sorry, the soot that's stuck in the DOC will jump in your DPF and will just shorten the life of your DPF. So think about when you take out the trash bag out of your kitchen garbage and dump it in the can, but let's say you didn't throw the whole bag in, you just dump the trash out. And then put the dirty bag back in your kitchen trash can. Yeah, so you took out most of the trash, but you still have a dirty old sack in the kitchen, and nobody likes a dirty sack. At least I don't. So on most trucks, when it comes to answering the question, how much does it cost? You'll spend $125 to clean that DOC. Remember, get the DOC clean. $295 to clean the DPF. You add those together, $420 to clean a typical truck's DOC and DPF. Now, if you have a medium duty truck like a Ram 2500, 3500, or a Ford F250, F350, or a Sprinter or something along those lines, um, the parts we clean are technically the same as any other truck, but the process is different, which requires precision cutting and welding. So medium duty will normally cost around $750 to clean. Now, if you have a Freightliner or a Western Star with the Detroit engine and a one box, you have two of everything. Lucky you. Two DPFs, two DOCs, twice as many clamps and gaskets, etc. And the clamps and gaskets are a little more costly on the Freightliner. So the cost is a bit more to clean. So to clean just the filters and replace the necessary clamps and gaskets, the price is about 900 and change, say 950, say a grand. And that's for cleaning two filters plus the necessary clamps and gaskets, all that type of stuff. But we would recommend on that Freightliner, we recommend cleaning the entire one box. And if you text or call us at 404-999-1361, we can talk more about that. But doing the entire one box, I think, is really the right thing to do, because it not just cleans the filters, it cleans the DOCs and the SCR and everything else. And the price for cleaning the entire one box includes all of the necessary parts. And to do the whole one box is about $1,600. So just the filters are around a grand. Do the whole one box in a Freightliner, about $1,600. We can also clean EGR coolers, EGR valves, as well as your SCR catalyst. But in a nutshell, pricing range to get your filters cleaned: $420, $750, up to $1,600 if you've got a Freightliner Cascadia, depending upon your truck. Plus, don't forget any necessary clamps and gaskets which need to get replaced when you clean your filters. So keep in mind that. And the pricing for the clamps and gaskets varies. I always tell people, you need to get it done. You can buy them at the dealership, of course. I normally find that our pricing is less than the dealership, and you don't have to stand in line to go get them. But if you really do like standing in line and spending more, you can get your clamps and gaskets at the dealership. We do not mind at all. Also, we do our work, keep in mind, and we do our work once the filters are off your truck. So the prices that we're talking about here, the processes, etc., are for cleaning the filters only and not for removal of the dirty filters. So removal, reinstallation of the clean filters, and hooking up a computer to reset everything is something that a mechanic would do. If you have a mechanic that you like to do that work for you, or if you do it yourself, great. We'll work with you on that. If not, we'll introduce you to one of our mechanics who will help you out. But it would be a separate charge, and they handle that directly so that we don't actually mark it up or anything like that. And the remove and reinstall, remember, it's a 2-day process. The mechanic will meet you, we'll pull everything off the truck, we'll get everything cleaned, they'll put it back on the next day, and then hook up the computer to reset all your codes, and you are good to go. And keep in mind, the mechanics that we do work with are full service. So if there's anything else you need to do with your truck, they can help you out with that as well. Did I mention, do you like my hat? If you like my hat and you wanted to win one yourself, just text the word hat to 404-999-1361 or comment the word hat anywhere down below, and we're going to pick one lucky winner by the end of the day today and get a hat out to you. So if you want a hat, you want to look as good as me with your DPF Guys hat, make sure that you text hat to 404-999-1361 or comment hat, and one lucky winner will get a DPF Guys hat. All right, number 5. So this is a good one, and this will be interesting because I'm actually going to try to talk somebody out of getting their DPF cleaned. So they say, I was wondering if you could help me with my 6.7 Power Stroke. I have 36,000 miles. What would be the recommended first DPF cleaning? Plan to stop in Georgia when the time comes, and I'm from Houston, Texas. So at 36,000 miles, you're just getting started. So hopefully you're not getting any DPF codes. So you should not require any cleaning yet. And while we'd love to see you, of course, you should be able to go another 200,000 miles plus or minus before you need to come and see me. So maybe, 150,000, 230,000, something like that. I'm going to call this person directly to ask some more questions, but I'm curious if they're having DPF issues already. If so, this truck is brand new. It probably still smells new inside. So it's way too early to have DPF issues unless there's something going on with the engine. But even then, this truck is barely broken in. So I'm wondering if the issue could be related to the truck's air filter, assuming he's having an issue, because as crazy as this may sound, an aftermarket air filter on a newer diesel medium duty truck can cause all sorts of issues with the DPF, and the dealer doesn't even know this. So if you did recently change your air filter and you've got a almost new medium duty truck, again, something with a Power Stroke 6.7, something like that. And you put an aftermarket air filter in, take that air filter out, throw it away, and put in an OEM air filter, have the truck regened, and it will probably be resolved. I know this sounds crazy and is hard to believe, but it's true. All right. What do we got for number 6? Excuse me. Number 6, 2020 3/4 ton Duramax just rolled over 90,000 miles. Any suggested maintenance you recommend to keep the DPF from plugging, or how often would you clean it? First off, the 3/4 inch Duramax has a decent and reliable DPF system. So with only 90,000 miles, I would say, in the words of Bon Jovi, you're halfway there. And you may be living on a prayer too, but you should come see me at around 160,000, 200,000 miles. However, depending upon how you use the truck, you may be in a situation of low miles but high engine hours. Tow trucks, boom trucks are notorious for having low miles and high hours, so you may be due for a cleaning, but probably not. If you are having issues and your truck is not asking for parked regens other than once in a blue moon, you should just hammer down as if you're not having issues. If you are not having issues and you're not doing any, parked regens or very infrequently, just hammer down, keep on trucking, and keep making that money. You may still want to come in and see me and get a quick and easy oil analysis done. But unless your truck has a lot of engine hours on it, you probably do not need to come see me yet. However, if you are in the area, stop in. We'd love to have you stop in and say hello. We have a DPF Guys hat for you. Give us a call or text 404-999-1361 and let's make a date. So, if you definitely, it sounds like he's got, what is he? Let me look at his question again. 90,000 miles. Like I said, unless he's got a lot of hours on that thing, he should be good for a while longer. And again, that Duramax is an excellent truck. The thing with cleaning the Duramax DPF is, again, this is one that would be like a medium duty truck, so it would require precision cutting and welding. But the Duramax has like the longest DPF I've ever seen on anything. Things like 13, 14 feet long. So it can be difficult to physically move around and get to us. But if you do have a Duramax, give us a call at 404-999-1361. We can tell you how to cut that thing actually while it's on the truck, and as long as you leave enough stub to put a sleeve on and weld it, you will be fine. And you reduce that 13-foot long thing down to about a 3-foot long thing, which is much more manageable. All right, what do we got here? Okay, number 7. Yeah, but they keep blowing off exhaust clamps. Now I have seen many do this. Why is this happening now? For context here, here's a video I just recorded showing off the new Generation 5 Detroit/Mercedes one-box DPF that has a higher than normal failure rate. So check out this video clip here. Hang on a second. Here we go. So what you're looking at right here is the latest generation DPF from a Freightliner Cascadia. I don't know if this is Gen 5. I'm thinking it probably is. But the old one boxes, if you're not familiar with them, had 2 of everything, 2 DPFs, 2 DOCs, 2 SCRs, 2 sets of clamps, etc., etc. It appeared to me that in the last year or so, Freightliner decided to simplify their after treatment, went with a one box that's about 30% smaller, more compact, lighter, and instead of having 2 DPFs, it has 1 big DPF. But I have discovered something. I don't think it's just me, and I want to put the question out there to the community and see if what I am seeing appears to be correct. Now here's an extreme example. This is also a Detroit DPF, but it's from a previous version of the one box system. This is an extreme example of a breached filter. And what a breached filter is whenever the filter is cracked or something inside where it's breached and it's no longer acting like a filter, it's letting all that soot and everything straight on through. So come with me. Let me tell you what my question is. Pay attention. Hope you can help me. We're going to get down to testing this in a second, but let me tell you what my real world statistics are here. When we clean several hundred filters a month here, we will only see maybe 1, 2, 3 breached filters. A small percentage of them are actually breached. So it's definitely the exception, not the rule, except if you got a Freightliner M2, but that's a whole other story. I'll talk about that soon. So the breached filters are the exception, not the rule. Hey, okay, so I'm going to go back to that video in a second here, but so what I was showing is the Generation 5 Freightliners have a new design of the one box that I was kind of excited about initially. Still, I'm kind of excited about. They reduced the size of the one box by about 30%, probably shaved 100 pounds off of it. They've simplified the one box itself, so instead of having 2 smaller DPFs, and anybody who's worked on this knows what I'm talking about, 2 smaller DPF canisters. It has 1 larger DPF canister, which then means that it has sort of 2 expensive clamps. It's got 1 still expensive clamp, but only 1 of them. So they've simplified things, but the failure rate I've seen on these things has been like 100%. Doesn't make any sense at all. I'm trying to get to the bottom of that, and they've been failing at fairly low miles. So let's get back to this, and so I can show you the rest of this video. Here we go. And usually it happens on older trucks, but I've been getting just recently these newer DPFs off of the newest Freightliner Cascadia, and I have gotten 4 of them in over the last month and a half, and 100% of those DPFs off this latest version of one box have been breached. And let me show you how we determine that on our test stand here that has a bright light that shines through it. Take a look at this. So we get that bright light on, and then we're going to look in here. So you see that? That actually is correct. That's like just a glow of light through the filter itself. But then we move over here. Let's look around. There we go. Look at that. So, for whatever reason, see that light shining through? You can actually see where the interior of the filter is cracked. You shouldn't see a bright light like that. That means everything inside here is completely gone. So what's going on with this? Why are these brand new filters on brand new trucks, fairly brand new trucks, cracking like that inside? What's going on? Do we have a fuel mapping issue in the engine? Something's not right. Or do we have a production issue with the actual DPFs? I don't know. And that is why I'm putting the question out there to the TikTok universe. So if anybody knows anything about these brand new generations of Freightliners with the brand new one box, and why, oh why, might they be wrecking their DPFs? I would love to hear your response. Send it as a comment, send it as a stitch, whatever it might be. I'm dying to know. I'd like to get to the bottom of this and try to fix it before it affects more and more trucks on the road, because this is not going to get better unless someone tries to fix it. Thanks for watching. Like, follow, share. Let me know what you think. Okay, so there you have it. This is so bizarre. So the N5 thing. Now the question was basically, was asking about blowing off the exhaust clamps. I haven't seen that. I've just seen the filters go bad. And if you're blowing off exhaust clamps, maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe the engine is somehow overstressing the filter. You really shouldn't see exhaust clamps blow off of this thing. So I'm really curious. I don't know what's causing it, but so that's the newest version of after treatments on an all new Freightliner Cascadias with the Detroit engine, and the failure rate is astounding. So far, 100% of every new style Detroit filter we have gotten in since they've been released has been failed and needed to be replaced. All of them have been incredibly low mileage, low as 40 or 50,000 miles, and they've all failed before we even worked on them. So it's not like our cleaning process has caused the damage. One of the comments stated that these new filters are blowing off exhaust clamps as well, which doesn't make any sense other than there may be a manufacturing issue. More data is needed. So if you on TikTok have any suggestions or ideas, let me know. And this is awesome. I just got a question just came in, and it was by Mike Avram. Mike, thank you for your question. And he said, what is the number one cause of clogged EGR valves, or EGR coolers, in a Cummins ISX? And I would say that the number one cause would be just, again, time and miles can cause it, but it would also be if your engine's running dirty. And we touched on that with like the question about black smoke. Just make sure you've got, you've got good compression. Make sure you get your overheads done. Make sure that you've got a decent, a clean air filter in there. Make sure your turbo's working right. Just make sure that everything that's combusting is combusting as completely as possible. But the inside of the EGR cooler has a bunch of little nooks and crannies because it's got to blow exhaust over the heat exchanger, because there's coolant inside and exhaust on that, on the other side of that. And so there's a lot of places for that exhaust to get stuck. If you do have a dirty EGR cooler, we can definitely clean those. They clean up quite nicely. But I don't know like exactly like what the smoking gun is for a dirty EGR cooler, other than the fact that if you have a dirty air filter, or just bad fuel, and that's one thing we're going to talk about too in next week's show, talking about fuel additives, and how important those actually are. Now I've become I've done a lot of research on additives over the last month or two, so I'm sharing that knowledge with you. So, Mike, thank you for your question. And he just sent another comment saying idling probably contributes most of the clogging. Yeah, it can. Idling with, can always, the engine's not running as hot as it can, and so it's not completely burning stuff off. But I would say, make sure, just make sure you've got good fuel. Make sure that you've got a clean air filter, and you shouldn't have any issues with that. But it's gonna be something that happens too. Now, keep in mind too that one thing that can cause a plugged up EGR cooler and damage to your turbo and a number of other things is if you let your DPF get really, really bad, that soot starts to back its way up into everything. And you have to understand that the vanes on that turbo are, that compressor is running at 30,000 plus RPMs. And if the soot works its way back up there, a little chunk of soot falls and hits those blades, it's gonna pit them or break them, and will blow out your turbo, and that can be a disaster. So keep your DPF cleaned and your air filters cleaned, and it will reduce your clogging of your EGR cooler. All right, what do you got for number 8? This sounds like this came in from Europe. It says, why isn't AdBlue getting rid of DPFs? I mean, why don't manufacturers raise combustion temps to get rid of particulate products? First off, if you haven't heard of AdBlue before, that's because you're not in Europe. AdBlue is a term for DEF used in Europe. I'm not sure if it's everywhere in some specific countries, but DEF, diesel exhaust fluid, and AdBlue are the same thing. AdBlue is just a trademark trade name for like Kleenex. And of course, DEF or AdBlue are all the same. 32.5% urea, which is nitrogen, mixed with a solution of 67.5% deionized water. The DPF will always be needed to catch the soot coming off the diesel engine, and the DEF or AdBlue is needed to reduce the NOx emissions. Soot and NOx are both waste products of diesel combustion, but they're separate and need to be handled by two different processes, hence the DPF and the AdBlue/SCR. The DPF catches the particles, which is soot or smoke, and the AdBlue or DEF works with the SCR, the selective catalytic reducer to reduce or even eliminate nitrogen oxide or NOx emissions, leaving just water and nitrogen left behind in the exhaust passed in the atmosphere. It's amazing to think that um, the end result of burning diesel fuel is nothing more than nitrogen and water. It's kind of cool. Um, all right, what do we have? Number 9. I've had people tell me parked regens are better than mobile regens, but I don't think it's true. When you're driving, there's more heat, pressure, etc. A parked regen or a passive or mobile regen really do the same thing. Um, they both start. They're both triggered when the ECM or the ACM, um, the aftercooling control module or the engine control module, detects that it's not the exhaust is not flowing like it should. So it says I need to kind of clean my oven. I need to do a regen to burn the soot into ash to make it easier for the engine to breathe. Um, so if you're driving any distance at highway speeds, the passive regen is all you need, and the passive regen will work just fine. If you do a lot of putting around locally or do a lot of stop and go or idling, you will likely have to do an occasional parked regen because the truck doesn't get up to speed to get hot enough to actually burn off the soot in a passive regen. So you have to do a parked regen. But if your engine is working properly and it has not been more than 200,000 miles since you had your DPF cleaned, you may not even need to do a parked regen. The passive regen should take care of it for you. But if your truck suddenly begins asking for parked regens and you're not driving it differently than you had before, your truck is telling you that you need to get your filter cleaned, or it will begin asking for parked regens more and more frequently until the regens simply stop working. You end up having to call a tow truck, which is no fun and wasted money. So there you have it. Your questions, my answers. I'm going to quick check to see if anything else came in on the live chat here. Hey, I got Eben Rockmaker is actually on here, synthetic oil protection. A big shout out to Eben Rockmaker. Check out his channel on YouTube, synthetic oil synthetic oil protection. I use all of Eben's products on my vehicles, and I have noticed that all of the promises he's made have come true. I also can tell the difference when my customers use a fuel additive and use good full synthetic oil. I can see it in the DPF. So what these guys say is correct. So anyway, so Eben, if you're out there, good on you. And we should do another video again. But check out synthetic oil protection on YouTube and learn a lot of stuff about the juices you can put in your vehicle to make it run much better and keep it running that way for much longer. So please leave your questions or comments below or text your questions directly to me at 404-999-1361. I'll be back here next week to answer more of your questions. And remember to subscribe to our DPF Guys YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, find us on TikTok, and if you're the corporate suit and tie type, look for me, James Wendt, on LinkedIn, and send me a connection request. And of course, if you want one of these super sexy DPF Guys hat, text HAT to 404-999-1361, or just comment HAT down below, and one of you lucky watchers will get yourself a DPF Guys hat. So thank you for watching. As always, now if you're going to wrap this up on YouTube and want to keep going, ask me some more questions, jump over to TikTok. Find DPF Guys on TikTok. I've got a live going right now with about 7 people watching. So there's room for a few more coming over. But in the meantime, happy Sunday. Have a productive and safe next week, and I'll see you next Sunday. How does that sound? All right? All right.